Australia is a unique island continent located in the southern hemisphere, and apart from Antarctica, was the last continent to be discovered and explored by Europeans. Often called the last frontier, the most striking characteristics of this vast 3 million square mile country are its global isolation, its low relief, and the aridity of much of its surface. As a result of its isolation from any other major land masses for 35 million years, Australia contains many varied habitats and has developed over 200,000 species of animals, including insect life, many of which are endemic to Australia alone. Located between the Indian Ocean and the South Pacific Ocean, Australia is almost as large as the United States of America. Many people don't realise the Tropic of Capricorn actually runs through the middle of Australia, and the state of Queensland is so large that the northernmost point is a little over 10 degrees south of the equator. Situated in the southeastern corner of Queensland, in a more moderate climate, is the state capital of Brisbane, just north of the Gold Coast. 40,000 years before Europeans sailed into the South Pacific, Aborigines had arrived from Asia, and by 20,000 years ago they had spread throughout the mainland and Tasmania. However, Australian history really began as recently as the 18th century, when, following Captain James Cook's discovery of Australia in 1770, the British government decided on settling New South Wales and developing their region's economy by employing convict labour. The first fleet of 11 vessels arrived at Botany Bay on January the 19th, 1788, 8 months after setting sail. However, the fleet soon moved further along the coast to the superb harbour of Port Jackson, which Captain Cook had marked but not explored. The centre of the settlement was deep within the harbour on the southern side, around which was to grow the city of Sydney. From this first foothold on the continent, a series of colonies were established along the coastline, followed by a series of independent expansions into the margins of the various colonies, and by 1859 4 of Australia's 6 states were formed, including Queensland. The states were not joined into an independent federated union until 1901. Historically part of the British Empire and now a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, the Commonwealth of Australia is a relatively prosperous independent nation. Visitors to Brisbane before the 1960s often remarked that it was more like a big country town than the capital of one of Australia's largest and most prosperous states. However, since the late 60s, the city has been extensively redeveloped and has changed dramatically. One such development is Brisbane Airport, a modern international airport built on the shoreline of the Brisbane River estuary. The airport is sure to be a welcome sight after a lengthy 24-hour flight from the UK, even with a stopover in Singapore. Add to that crossing over 10,000 miles on several time zones, you'll find yourself having to adjust your watch 10 hours forward. Queensland contains some of the most varied habitats in Australia, with the eastern third of the state a complex zone of old eroded highlands and extensive basins of sedimentary rock. The boldest topography lies close to the seaboard, with summits rising from 2,000 feet to the highest point of Mount Kosciuszko at 7,310 feet. The coastline presents a variety of landscapes, including bold headlands, sandy beaches, lagoons, estuaries, wetlands and vegetated dunelands. Not to mention the Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral system in the world, extending more than 2,000 kilometres along the continental shelf off the Queensland coast, and including a scattering of nearshore islands of great recreational value. Queensland has a highly varied flora and fauna. At one extreme are the tropical and subtropical rainforests, scattered in coastal and near-coastal valleys and ranges, with a remarkable diversity of plant and animal species, sufficient to have the northern rainforests inscribed on the World Heritage List. Coastal areas, however, are covered mainly by eucalyptus open forest and woodland, with much land cleared for agriculture. Australia is the world's largest wool producer, with over 150 million sheep. Because of its habitat diversity and its position in relation to migration, Queensland has the greatest diversity of animal species of any state. These include more than 70 species of marsupials, from the large red kangaroo to small marsupial mice, with a great variety of possums, including the cuscus. There are more than 47 species of bats, 161 species of lizards and more than 600 species of birds, including 2 large flightless birds, the emu of open country and the cassowary of the northern rainforest. Extinction of native species is a matter of much concern. It is believed that altogether 13 species of mammals and 1 bird species have become extinct since European settlement, but many more are regarded as endangered. South East Queensland constitutes only 2% of the state's area, but contains more than 60% of the state's population. It is this region around Brisbane where we'll be concentrating, and showing some of the birding locations and the species you can expect to find. Along the coastline there are many places worth visiting to provide an excellent seabird list. Terns are commonly seen, such as this crested tern, but gulls on the other hand are not well represented, with silver gull being the only abundant species. Petrels and shearwaters pass in good numbers at the right time of year, but can be dependent on the weather conditions. There is also a good wader passage. A trip by boat along the Brisbane coastline into Moreton Bay is a must, and stopping off at Point Lookout on North Stradbroke Island is well worth a visit. One of 3 islands located in Moreton Bay, North Stradbroke Island consists almost entirely of sand carried by ocean currents from northern New South Wales and deposited over tens of thousands of years. The island is very beautiful and contains a wide diversity of habitats, including melaleuca swamps, freshwater lakes, mangroves, beaches, sand dunes, heathlands, eucalyptus forests and small pockets of rainforest, resulting in an extremely rich bird life. About 260 species have been recorded on the island alone, including the highly sought-after Balands and spotless crakes. During your trip you may be fortunate enough to see humpback whales and bottlenose dolphins from your vantage point as they leap out of the water, almost as if showing off to the tourists in the boats shadowing their progress through the water. Around Brisbane there are many lakes and small dams where most of the wildfowl of Australia can be found. One such site is Lake Samsondale, northwest of Brisbane. This lake not only is abundant in wildfowl but also supports many other birds, such as this forest kingfisher and this Australian black-shouldered kite. Waders are also common here. In fact, all the egrets can be found in the Brisbane area, including eastern reef egret. Common birds also include species such as striated heron, Australian ibis and royal spoonbills.